All right, we're talking about TV for the first time in a while, and we're going to talk about the first 4 episodes of The Acolyte. Up next on the Entertainment Jungle. We're really going to rely on 66 for all the information.
Yeah.
100%.
I hope that I can come through because I don't know, man. There's a lot going
Your
on.
word as gospel. So whatever you say is the truth.
All right, so let's
Just Google
Whatever
it.
you say is canon, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
Google it.
Oh, good, because that's one of the things that's going to come up. But before we start talking, let me tell you that this is the new series on Disney Plus. It's in the Star Wars universe, and according to IMDb, The Acolyte is an investigation into a shocking crime spree pits a respected Jedi Master against a dangerous warrior from his past. As more clues emerge, they travel down a dark path where sinister forces reveal all is not what it seems. We're going to talk about streaming shows in a minute and my biggest problem with them. But I don't want to get too far ahead. I'm going to do overall thoughts, and before we get into it, I think I'm going to start with the ratings so far for these 4 episodes. So we have to start with 66 and what your overall thoughts are on The Acolyte so far.
Okay. This is fun. I think I was looking forward to this because I read so much of the books. I read the High Republic, Phase 1 and Phase 2, but not Phase 3. And so I was really excited to see Vernestra Rowe and some of the High Republic characters, and I was hoping to see some Yoda. I don't know. I'm excited to be in that universe, but I'm overall mostly disappointed with the show, and I don't think it's disappointment with the story. I think it's disappointment with the childlike feel of the direction, and possibly, you know what it reminded me of, and I'm going to leave it at this. It reminds me of Agents of Shield for Marvel. And
Okay.
which I liked Agents of Shield, but it just felt like, I don't know, the Netflix version of Marvel or the Wish version of something. I don't know. I'm still enjoying it, and I don't want to like be a Debbie Downer or a party pooper because I love Star Wars, but yeah, not. I don't know. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Interesting. Well, all right, we'll get into it. Walter, what are your overall thoughts? It's only 4 episodes, and we'll talk about that in a second too.
I love Agents of Shield. So if we're gonna compare it to that, I'm gonna have to say yes. I like this one. I'm enjoying it so far. I don't know nothing about any of the past. I didn't read any of the books, so maybe I don't really have anything to gauge why I would not like this. But I'm enjoying the storyline. I'm hoping that my predictions are correct, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
We are also going to talk about predictions in a second too. So, all right, Ryan and I finish some overall thoughts, and then I have a list of questions. But I think we're going to start with the ratings. So go for it.
I think I'm, kind of middle of the road here. I think I definitely agree with 66 that I think it is geared more towards a young audience, which is just, in my opinion, the world that we live in now. Like that's like what a lot of this content is targeted, and so it's fine. I'm interested enough that I'll keep watching. And kind of like Walter was saying, I knew absolutely nothing about this going in, so I didn't really have any expectations, and it's okay.
All right. So, I also it's hard. We're only 4 episodes in, so I'm also kind of interested in like where it's going from there. Like so far, it's okay. I kind of get where everyone's coming from in terms of the story and child. Like, I think the story is it could have been so much better. But before we even talk about that, I want to show you. I want to start with. We don't usually do this, but I want to start with the overall ratings of this show so far. Okay. Let's just say it's not good.
Oof.
So, IMDb on average so far only gave this a 3.4 out of 10.
No.
the audience is at a 14% on Rotten Tomatoes with over 10,000 reviews. But the critics are at an 83%.
I think this makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Though, because Star Wars.
I have to imagine that this got
review
bombed because nothing on IMDb gets a 3.4 that wasn't made for like $15.
I know. It's really strong. When I saw this, I was like, no way. I mean, this is pretty low. And how do you rate it so early on in the show? Like, how do you rate it before anything really happened? I didn't read a lot, but I skimmed through. A lot of it is what 66 touch on, which is canon. Like, we joke, like, whatever he says is canon. Apparently, not a lot of what's going on is canon, but this is a whole beginning story. This is like thousands of years, right? Isn't it before Skywalker? So, like,
it's just 100 years before Episode 1.
Oh, it's not that far.
It's only 100 years?
Yeah. So it's set 100 years before Episode 1. It kind of concludes the High Republic novels. And this is supposed to be like, you know, the Sith are extinct and bad guys in this era are not Force users, or if they are Force users, they're not considered Sith. So, and I know we're going to touch on a lot of this, but if you remember in Episode 4 that just passed, they were kind of like, let's not tell the Council about this because the High Council will then have to tell the Senate, and then they'll know that there's this dangerous foe out there, and it'll kind of like shed light on this, which we don't want. So I have a theory or a thought that maybe they're just not sharing that there's this bad side Force user, like a Sith-like character, and maybe the people on the Jedi Council, if Yoda's on it at this point, which I assume he is, maybe they don't know, and maybe they won't know. Maybe this will be a huge cover-up, because how else are like most of these characters, except for one or two, are not in Episode 1 and on. So how are they going to kind of piece this together and say, oh, the Sith didn't exist? So I don't know.
Well, can we do a spoiler real quick? The next episode, very first scene, which we kind of saw just in the preview right there, he's going to destroy all of them except for a couple, and there you go. That's why they're not in Episode 1.
Wait, who's going to?
Whoever that guy was.
Oh, the dude we saw, whoever that guy was.
Manny Jacinto.
The preview for the next one.
Yeah, because
wait, what did you say?
Manny Jacinto.
So,
you
think it is? That would be kind of cool.
Why is that not working?
Well, are you saying you think it's the guy that's with May?
Yes, that is.
Yeah,
me
Manny
too.
Jacinto.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty. I think it's pretty obvious that it is. I mean, he was hung up and strung up, and then all of a sudden, the Wookiee was dead in the hut. Like, it has to be him.
I mean, yeah. If it's not, then I'll be like, all right, well, you're putting too many clues and not.
If it's him, then I'll actually be more interested because I love that dude. He's a great actor.
I hope he becomes more badass, really, because he's been kind of like, I don't know, a little twerky, but he kind of, the walk with May going to the hut trying to find Kelnaka, he was kind of like talking with May, I've never seen his face, and kind of like insinuating,
he's
like,
pulling a Kaiser Soze on us.
I think he is Kaiser Soze, and then he's gone.
Man,
so
I mean, I guess you're right. It does make almost too much sense, which is why I wasn't even thinking of it. I was like, that'd be kind of a cop out. but at the same time, I do love that guy. So,
and they do love their surprises in Star Wars.
So that was kind of my. I mean, we can start about it right away. Who is the big bad? Although it's taken us 4 episodes, we haven't even seen it. But you're right. He knew a lot of information for just being a nobody. So
now I have not. I tried to read. So there's a novel called Darth Plagueis, and it's like one of the first books that came out before Episode 1, and it was kind of Palpatine and how it's like the whole story of Darth Plagueis the Wise. It was kind of that book. So it was kind of canonized in episode 3 when he's like, have you heard the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise and whatever? And Palpatine is in that book. I haven't read it, so I don't know much about it, but I'm assuming that people are mad about the canon because of that book, and maybe this is ruining some of that, even though it's 100 years before. So I'm kind of hoping that, and as cheesy as this would be, I kind of hope that Palpatine is even higher up and behind the whole thing, and the bad guy in the mask is Palpatine's apprentice, who is going to die eventually anyway.
That's actually interesting because I thought that was like their Rise of Skywalker cop out, like or he had to do that. But if he like is the thread through all of this, that'd be kind of cool.
So I have a question for 66. So when I don't understand how someone like Emperor Palpatine, for example, or if, in a scenario where, like, let's say it is Manny Jacinto is this like big bad guy, can't Force users sense other people that are like, you know, like part of the Force, like using the Force, like very Force sensitive? Like, how can someone like that powerful go under the radar?
Well, I think in the prequels, it was that their ability to use the Force has diminished. They kind of said that in episode 3 or something, and they wanted to tell it to the Senate, where the dark side of the Force clouds everything, kind of a thing. And they have been unable to use the Force to the best of their abilities. The other thing, Coruscant, that Jedi temple, is actually built on top of a Sith temple, which is kind of, it's not in the it's like not in the movies, but it's in the books. So that could be another reason. And then beyond that, I think Vernestra Rowe in this episode, when they're standing around that war room that Anakin and Obi-Wan would stand around in sometimes in the prequels, they were discussing the, you know, not telling the Jedi Masters. I believe she mentioned something in, it might have been there, it might have been in an earlier scene, but she mentioned something about not being able to use the Force as well as they had, or something clouding the Force. So maybe they are sensing it and they don't know. Maybe their abilities are being diminished. And the last thing I want to say about this is, I think Saul, when they were at Kalnaka's hut telling May to come out, you could tell that he knew something was going on. Like, he kept looking around. So I think he
even
knew.
prior too.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if that answers your question or not.
We actually have a theory already from Nathan. Our friend Nathan is back. And his theory is that the mystery guy is either Palpatine's eventual master, or he will be teased later. Because from what he was told, Palpatine was the apprentice to Darth Plagueis. So
Yes.
So maybe that's an interesting theory. If
I like that.
I like that too. Like I said, I like how things get tied in. As much as you hate it, like not you, but like as much as people hate it, I kind of like how they're trying to tie it all together.
But then, where does the twins come in for this then? If it is going to be Palpatine's master,
What did you say? Where do the twins come in?
yeah. Then what's this whole trial and trying to get May to be what assuming is the dark side,
I
right?
don't know.
That is my next question, actually. Oh, I was going to say
Well,
you can answer that, but I have a.
Well, think about like Darth Maul or even Count Dooku. I mean, they were trying to be the apprentice and they weren't strong enough, so they eventually either died or was killed by Palpatine because they weren't strong
Well, and
enough.
like
So it could just be that.
May, it seems like she's already like doubting if she should continue down this path. So if she does like turn away, then he's going to need a new apprentice.
I do have a thing. I think that May was never really the target. It's Osha has been the target the whole time, because I feel like she's the one who shows more of the dark side, that, well, other than trying to kill everybody, but she shows more to it.
Well, that's a good theory. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's actually kind of a good theory because for two reasons. One, in that forest at that end scene, like, why wouldn't the masked character just kill her right then and there? He was face to face with her. Second of all, why? Well, part B of that is why wouldn't the Jedi step in earlier? But that was silly. So dumb.
Run.
But
Do you,
right.
Use
do
the
you
force
think-
of
But
pull
the
your
other
leg.
thought
Come
of that is, trauma and loss is a huge path to the dark side, and I think that if May is killed or betrayed in some way, maybe that will push Osha to that side.
Do you think it could be revealed that Osha was the one responsible for the fire and they just blamed it on May because they thought she was dead and they were like, oh, you know what? Let's just blame it on her and then we'll try and like fix this other one because she's so powerful.
I mean, they
Yeah,
got
I know
they're
oh.
twins. So
Well, I was gonna say what was interesting about that whole episode was that it actually happened the way she said. Like, how many of these shows where they're like, my sister started a fire, and then they go back and show you, and it's not like that. Like, I thought the Jedi's did something, and that's why she's.
Well, there still has to be more to that story. Like, why are the Jedi like feel so guilty about what happened? Like, there's definitely more that has to be revealed. Like that, like first off, like I was like, wait, why'd they show us so early on? And I was like, well, that's definitely not the whole story. So there's more to it, and that's why like maybe that's what I'm saying. Like maybe what happened was they knew that Osha was responsible. They covered up that Osha was responsible, and that's why they all feel guilty about it because they just blamed it on a girl that they thought was dead.
I mean, I've seen that before. The evil twin. You think the one good twin is then the evil is like the bad twin.
The Simpsons did that.
Yes, the Simpsons.
Maybe the best version of it.
Maybe the best version of it. But yeah, I always like. But I don't. I mean, keep that in your mind for my question about streaming shows in a minute. But that's what I mean. Like I was like, oh, the Jedi are gonna save her, and they accidentally caused the fire, and she thinks they did it on purpose. Like all this stuff was like, but the episode was literally exactly what we knew. There's no new information there,
and that's why there has to be more to that. Otherwise, what was the point of it? You know,
exactly. So, my question to bring it a little bit back to story real fast. Do you think people? We all touched on it. Do you think people don't like this story because it's too small? Because they're starting, although it's 100 years or it could have been 1,000 years. This isn't the Skywalker saga. This could have been about 66. The New Republic, the Old Republic,
High Republic.
The High Republic. Okay, so it could have been about that. It could have been about like all of these different things. Like maybe I think that they shrunk down the story to these to this girl, where they could have started with like a bigger world. Now I know the original one was about like the Skywalkers, but that really encompassed the whole. They told you about the whole galaxy within this story, and I feel like they're really small. I don't know. Does that feel like anything like that? Maybe?
Yeah. So I think you're right, and I'll think that Ryan and Walter can probably touch on their view from not having read the books. But two things I'll say is every book I read, I feel like is small. Every book that I've read does connect to the other books in some way, but even the main novels, the three main novels in each phase, aren't that grandiose. Like the story is kind of focused on a few characters, and it builds the world. Now, I've read the books, so I get that, and this is supposed to be the culmination of all three of those. So I did expect it to be bigger and more of a huge world thing, but in the books, as far as I know, because I didn't finish the third phase, there's no Sith revealed. There are other bad people. There are other Force users or Force sensitive like beings out there that cause the Jedi problems, but there's nothing like a Sith like this. So on one hand, it is small, and I'm a little disappointed, but on the other hand, it's like maybe we're going somewhere big. I don't know. And you also have to bring in a new audience that has not read the books. You have to assume no one has read the books. Much like Ahsoka, you have to assume no one knows who she is when you introduce that character.
That is very true. I didn't know.
But I'm interested to hear your opinions on this because I don't know. Yeah.
I think I agree with you that I think that a lot of Star Wars stories are kind of small. And I also think that like where in other Star Wars stories, like the stakes have been so high because of what's going on in the galaxy at that time versus I feel like this is like viewed as more a time of peace. So there isn't like that huge threat looming out there, at least like on that scale yet. Like this is like the very beginning of that threat. So I think it kind of makes sense for it to be a small story. Like maybe like 66 was saying, like maybe we're just seeing like, you know, the small pebble that falls and causes the avalanche at this point in the story, because that's kind of where we are in the timeline, from what I understand.
Yeah, I agree. You really, everything you guys are saying just hits correctly. And there's really no point to go big anyway anymore because we know the Star Wars universe. So why are we going to keep expanding something when you don't really have to? Now you can like kind of focus in on this story and then let us appreciate it and then move on to the next. And if this is just the beginning, it's going to get bigger anyway, right? So I don't know. I like it. I like the way they're doing it right now.
I mean, that's fine. Like I said, that's why going back to the ratings, I think they're too soon to like completely squash this show. So
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I
Like,
would say I'm still like skeptical. I'm not sold on it, but I can't say like this is an absolute waste of time at this point, you know. And that seems like those ratings would lead you to believe.
I mean, I don't know, not for nothing. And I actually hate that saying, so I don't know why I said it. It's kind of a stupid saying, but one of the coolest parts about reading those High Republic books was the first phase, which is like the set in the middle, right? Like the OG Star Wars trilogy, like 4, 5, 6, those books, and in the middle of the High Republic, I should say, right? So phase 1 was in the middle, and one of the cool things was the bad guys. You were like, who could possibly be an adversary to the Jedi? And it was these bad guys called the Nile, and they have this really cool ability to. And I'm not going to go dive deep into it, but their ships can kind of like, they can kind of jump. Oh, I froze. Oh no. I froze.
I know, right?
we can still hear you.
We can,
So the ships
no, go ahead,
can
finish
kind
your
of
thought.
light speed jump from like place to place, like really fast. So when the Jedi and the High Republic are fighting these bad guys, the Nile, those ships can kind of like jump from here to there or there to there, and like they're kind of like transporting like Nightcrawler almost. And it was a cool little thing to
Teleporting.
kind of, yeah. And so it was a cool little thing, and you're like, wow, this is a cool way to bring in bad guys that can really go against the Jedi. And there's other things in there as well, but they kind of do start a little bit slow. And my point to this is it kind of catches the Jedi off guard because like you said, Cornelius, this is a time of peace, and then all of a sudden there's a bad guy, and you're like, what do we do now?
How did they have that technology then, and we've never seen it since?
It was actually so they go back into it in the prequels, but there's this woman, and they have this vision, and they call it the path, and they can foresee different things, and then they kind of harness that power and energy onto each little cruise ship and each little spaceship. It's kind of neat how the way they explain it, because they don't really explain it, but they kind of explain it, and it's like, so you don't ask questions, but you kind of get it, like you understand.
All right, fair enough.
So
Because they have the jump to hyperspace, but
I want to.
it doesn't sound like it's the same.
I want to talk about the show a little bit more, about maybe some of the episodes. I want to know what you liked about it. I want to know what you thought of the main actor. I guess we'll call him the guy who learned English for this role, which I thought was a kind of crazy factoid about this.
yeah.
Master Soul.
Master Soul. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to butcher his real name. Sorry. But I was curious what you thought of him, what you thought of Carrie Ann Moss, and especially in the first episode, and her Matrix-esque fight, but then
So
actually
cool.
died. I was like, that's interesting to have like a name do that. If there's anything that you liked out of the first couple episodes, if there's anything you didn't like, I'm still really mad I didn't get to see the Wookiee fight. Like, he died off screen. I was so pissed. I was like, God damn.
It'll be a flashback. Hopefully, it'll be a flashback.
I mean, they did stop it with a pretty cool cliffhanger. I'll give you that, where they, if you look on screen, where they all just like draw their lightsabers, and we have to see what happens. So that at least got me enticed for the next one. But there was a couple cool things, and then I do have some more Star Warsy questions. But was there anything else that stand out to you that was like actually cool that all these people that are bashing it for no reason are like, you know, like they're their own worst enemy. I agree. 60s.
I mean, I liked the fight scene with Trinity. I thought that was sweet.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was like
Agreed.
right out the gate. Like I was like, oh, nice. This is what I want to see. Although the way she lost was kind of weak, but
I
aside
said the
from
same
that,
thing.
I was like, oh, such a cool fight scene, and they end it like that. All right.
I said the exact same thing.
That-
Like she didn't see that knife coming.
No,
She's
but
an all-knowing Jedi.
I think it's fitting because you can't kill off Trinity with head to head because everybody be flipping out, going, "Come on, no way!" So you had to have her save somebody and basically sacrifice yourself for it, right?
But
I mean,
but you could do that in a way that like I believe. Like this one seemed kind of weak. If I'm in that scenario, I'm gonna toss the girl while I'm like stopping.
True.
I'm gonna hit them both because like, why wouldn't you believe like, oh, if I completely turn my attention from the person that's trying to kill me, they'll wait. Like
Because
that's a
she's
kind
not
of known
dead.
Thing that's gonna
because she's not
gonna work.
dead. That is why.
I also thought she might not be dead, and I'm like, interesting.
Nobody, no death. Come on.
She didn't evaporate or like Obi-Wan did when he died.
That drew me
Kinda
in
hit or
though. I'll
miss,
tell you
isn't it?
what, that fight scene.
That fight scene was really cool though.
It was
Yeah.
cool.
That was really cool.
I think the fight scenes are kind of the highlight of this whole TV series so far. I mean, there have been some really, even Saul versus May in the street was really cool.
And you wouldn't
Yeah.
expect him to be able to move like that. honestly.
The Jedi are more agile than they look.
Yeah, but it is a different take on how they fight, though, compared to when we jump forward to episode 1. They don't fight like that. It's more
Yeah.
of twirling lightsabers, and then this is more like hand-to-hand martial arts.
I was gonna say they kind of avoid using their lightsabers. They even talk about how like they don't draw their lightsabers unless they intend to kill someone.
Yeah.
Where it did not seem that way at all in every other Star Wars like story. They would draw
Well,
that shit
it's
whenever.
true.
They would just whip it out whenever. It'd be like, hey, I got a lightsaber, back off. They'd be like, all right. Like, all
Look
right.
at my lightsaber.
If there is a Jedi code, which I think it's in the Disney parks, so I'm sure it's like canon at this point, but the Jedi code is really about defense and selflessness and you know self
Right.
and so I don't really think they're going out to be maybe it's because of the dark side and Palpatine, like you know, in episode 1, 2, and 3 that they're so eager to fight and kill.
I do love how we treat this as a real universe, but I'm just gonna jump away from that for 1 second and say they really learned how to make lightsabers twirl for episode
Yeah.
1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's the real truth.
universe. That's the real truth. The real truth is once they figured it out, they're like, we're gonna make everything. They had how many in episode 2? They had like everyone had a color lightsaber.
It was
So-
slightly different than the original 3
But-
movies.
Pretending like we always do, which this is a real world that's happening somewhere in the universe. I like that better, to be honest.
Yeah.
The galaxy far, far away.
But yes,
Yeah.
I think the fights are cool too. I don't know, like that's why even with these kind of shows, I'm like that should at least get you a couple more ratings higher.
Can I ask? I'm super interested because I thought of Ryan the Lion because he's super critical of child actors. What did you think of episode 3? Because I thought of you, and I have a very strong opinion about this. So I'm curious about how you felt about episode 3.
It was
Yep.
fine. I didn't think that they were particularly good, but they weren't like so bad that it ruined what they were trying to do for me.
I agree 100%. I'm right with you.
Can I say a dumb thing? Did anyone else? They grew up apart, but they both had the same hairstyle. When they met up.
Hey man, twins, you know, sometimes they got weird stuff like that.
It's a twins thing, right? I don't know, but I thought that was just I was like, I wrote that down. I was like, I thought that was so interesting. But I do have a couple more, I guess, Star Wars specific questions. What is an? I know they kind of cryptically explained it or stuff, but what is an acolyte? I know what like the word means, but like,
Did they
what-
even explain that?
Did they explain it? Kind of, right? Like it.
I don't remember them
Oh.
even saying the word.
Isn't it like a student?
Yeah, I think it's a
Right.
follower, and I think it's something. It has to be something with the dark, like not the dark side, but like a. Sorry, do you have the definition?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, but I don't think this is like from Star Wars, but it says they're a class of like hive species. So I was curious if that is gonna come into like maybe one month, because she kept saying, what was the whole point of her saying she has to kill without a weapon? That
I
was
think it's
another thing
just.
that-
So from what and this is not my theory. This is just what I've heard and read up on. I think that is. People are assuming this is part of like the old Sith trials, kind of like there's Jedi trials, where it's like you have to do this in order to whatever. Part of that was in like the Darth Vader comics that came out. Charles Soule did it, and he had like it kind of explained why there was red lightsabers. Like you have to make the lightsaber crystal bleed, and you can't go after the Jedi with a lightsaber. You have to take one of their lightsabers from them, kill them, and make the lightsaber crystal bleed, and it turns the saber red. So this might just be part of the Sith trial kind of a thing. I don't know. I'm making this up.
Do you think that this is even the Sith at all, or is it just like another entity?
I think it.
'Cause-
I think it is. I think this is going to be a Sith apprentice start of, or they're coming out of hiding. But I really think they're going to keep this away. In my opinion, I think that we're not going to see Yoda. I think we're not going to see the Jedi Council. I think that this is going to be a smaller story that they hide from the Jedi Council. Either most of them die or they keep this secret, and no one knows about the Sith because they didn't know in episode 1.
True.
I didn't.
Well,
I
which is a
didn't
bummer.
realize that they were trying to hide it from the Jedi Council. I thought they just wanted to hide it from the Senate.
Well, that's
they
why they
had
didn't
to-
tell the
yeah.
High Council.
Yeah.
My question is.
So the High
what
Council is
oh,
the Jedi
okay.
Council. Sorry. Okay.
Well, if they tell the Jedi Council, then they had the obligation to report it to the Senate, which is dumb. But that's why they can't say anything.
Well, maybe this will help answer a little bit. But what are witches in the Star Wars universe?
We learned that in Ahsoka, didn't we?
I know. I'm just trying to bring it up again because, like, I had a question about witches, and I also looked it up. Mother Coral. I was curious if she was the same species as Darth Maul, and if the internet is correct, she's like a version of, like, the female version of it. So, I didn't know if that was gonna play into anything because I did think for a second, although I do like your what's his name, Manny Jacko. I like that theory better, but I thought maybe it was the mom in the black.
Mhm.
Like she didn't die either because once again, no, like Walter said, no body, no death. But I don't know.
So-
kind of going down a rabbit hole.
I'm gonna go off on another little thing here, but of course I am. So in the Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon show, the witches are the Night Sisters. And these witches live on the same planet, Dathomir, where the species of Darth Maul is from. And they go and they take the male versions of their species, these, I forget what they're called. They brought them in. They kind of did an enhancement and an enchantment, and Darth Maul has the Force ability and whatever. But these witches are able to use the dark side of the Force, but they're not like Sith. They're just Force users. They use it for magic, kind of a thing. They can raise the dead, which is kind of why you see that in Ahsoka, where like the army is like dead soldiers from Thrawn. So maybe these are the same witches. I'm assuming they are. So maybe they are dark side users. I'm assuming they are. But that's my kind of explanation on the witches.
Okay. I also had another question about did the Jedi go around and search for kids who are Force sensitive? Oh, you're laughing. I was
Because
always
That's a great question.
it's one of these things where I understand the story's small, but it seems like he was very focused on these two twins on this specific planet. So, did they do that? Is this something that the Jedi did?
Kidnapping, it's
Yeah.
okay.
It's kind of, it's like child trafficking kind of a thing. It's messed up, actually,
It is.
if you really
yeah.
think about it.
But is that was like kind of their thing? Like that's how they got people to join the Jedi? They would just go around being like, "Hey, we could sense that your child's Force sensitive, so we're gonna take them.
And you'll never
Yeah.
see them again.
Wow.
Well, because they're not supposed to have attachment, right? So, but you have to take them before they're attached to their family and even remember having a family. Your only family is the Jedi. Otherwise, they could turn out like Anakin, right? That's the whole thing.
That's
And,
Even though they
true,
didn't
but-
know that Anakin would turn, so they developed
I mean,
this
Yoda
system.
knew. They knew.
Well, no, but they
Mace
developed the
Windu was
system
like-
prior to someone turning to the dark side, right? Or did someone else turn to the dark side and they're like, whoa, let me...
Well, maybe. I don't know about that, but that's what the whole thing was. They would take them at basically almost at birth, like hey,
cutting
your
out.
child's force
Yeah.
sensitive.
Oh,
but
Damn.
I can't believe he was. I can't believe he explained the dark side of the Jedi. They go through the galaxy just collecting children. But on the
It's
happier
true.
note, I did like the stuff in Coruscant. Like I did like, which I thought they would focus on more in this, like the training of the younglings and all that kind of stuff, and the Jedi Master. I thought they might do that a little more. They haven't really, but I don't know.
Man, that's crazy. I never really thought about that. But yeah, like where else would they get these kids from? Like how does a kid get signed up for that? They don't. They get kidnapped by the Jedi.
Wouldn't that give them hate though? Like I hate that you took me. Like, don't take me away from my parents. I don't know.
Am I still cutting out?
yes,
Yeah.
Damn.
A little bit.
a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do about this.
I have a question since we never touched on it.
Okay.
Does anyone have a theory of how the twins were made?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Because they talked about it. I have nothing.
I have nothing.
But basically, I'm
Is
asking,
it gonna
hey,
be like the same
66,
thing
do
as
you have a
Anakin?
theory?
Like, wasn't
Well,
Anakin just made by the Force, basically?
Well,
Does that-
no.
That's what they
the
said,
witch-
but
Yeah.
so there was a comic that shows, and this was just this was kind of just a flashback or thought that Anakin or Darth Vader was remembering, but he saw in a vision Palpatine touching his mother's stomach and basically insinuating that I'm creating a baby through this, as if this was Palpatine's plan the entire time. Now, whether that's true or not is debated amongst Star Wars fans a lot, but
He took the fun out
I
of
mean,
They
it.
didn't-
if that was always like wasn't it sheer luck that like
yeah.
they ended up on a planet with Anakin and then the Jedi tried to train him? Like, when was Palpatine planning to swoop in there if he made that kid?
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
where the argument was coming.
I agree.
And why that way? There are other ways to make a baby.
So, yeah, because she said What did she say? She said I carried them, and then the other one
Yes.
said, "Well, I made them." Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
what the
maybe she
witches
did.
said.
Maybe she.
Yeah,
You
it
can
was
create
witchcraft.
life from the Force, I think, is what is insinuated.
Hmm.
Her
Palpatine
answer-
in one of the cartoons, Palpatine was trying to identify Force sensitive children and would send out like his minions or Force users to go collect the babies before the Jedi could find them, to try to collect them and either A, kill them or try to make him his apprentice. And so the Jedi were on missions throughout this to try to stop him, identify, and then take those babies for the Jedi themselves. So it was supposed.
Oh no, this guy's
It's
trying to
even
kidnap
more
children
messed
to
up.
stop us from kidnapping children.
It's like both
Yep.
sides are kidnapping children. There's no in between.
It's even more messed up than you.
We gotta kidnap the
imagined.
children quicker before this guy kidnaps the children.
Of course, you're gonna
It's
side
true.
with
It was
the
a good
Jedi,
episode too.
but you're gonna always side with the Jedi because you get to live with the dark side. You're like, well, it's 50-50, so
Yeah, they did say, like, they did take their blood, right, of the kids, or right, when they were testing them.
yeah.
They didn't talk about the midichlorians. That's what Nathan brought up. He was going on the Walter. He was on your side. He said if it goes the way you're thinking. That's what he liked, so I don't
Nice.
know.
Yeah, they didn't even mention the word midichlorians, right?
I know they didn't for some reason.
No. Is Ryan the
Um,
Lion alive? I don't see him on
Oh,
the.
We lost.
Oh, he's back.
No, he is.
He's back.
Oh,
right,
I
so
was
have a
like,
couple
did
more-
rendezvous turn off? Mine went black. I guess it was just me.
All right. Well, we're answering a lot of weird questions that I didn't think we'd even touch on yet. So
This went in a wild direction I didn't expect.
Which means the show is good because it's sparking intellectual
Whenever
conversation.
we get Star Wars content, I know that I'm gonna go down a tangent asking 66 all kinds of like super specific questions.
I feel bad because I don't even know if people care. I'm just like, well, let me tell you about the Night Sisters.
We don't care.
I want to know about the yellow lightsaber. How about that? Because God, I don't remember anyone's names. I'm terrible with names.
What,
But,
race Skywalkers?
Yord.
No, Yord, right here. If you see him in the picture, so he has the yellow lightsaber, and yes, Rey at the end of Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker.
Isn't
had
that
it.
like peace and protection is the lightsaber meaning behind that? But because those were the temple guards in the prequels had yellow lightsabers. It was only temple guards. So it was supposed to be like the protection and peacemakers. Now in the High Republic, I don't know. Maybe they have different rules and whatever behind this, and anybody could have any color. I don't know.
I mean, I only connected it there once. So I was interested in.
I just thought it meant he was a Skywalker. That's what I thought. But all right.
I think Yord might be my favorite character of this whole series.
Oh really?
Really?
Because he's so, you know what? He kind of reminds me of every like younger Jedi that's going to be a master, but is like a Jedi.
I was gonna
now.
say he's like the most Jedi
Yep.
of the Jedi that we've seen in
That's
this.
true.
Like he's got the most like, oh yeah, he definitely seems like a brainwashed Jedi Padawan.
But he contradicts himself. Saul is very intelligent and he knows everything, but then you question him the very next scenes. Like, well, wait a minute. If you think he's as smart as he is, why are you questioning him? Guy's annoying. I don't like his character.
That's super fair. So I guess the real reason I love it is because reading the books, like I said, I think that every time I met like a young adolescent Jedi that's like just became a Jedi Knight, but not a master yet, I kind of imagined him. Like he kind of looks like I would have pictured in my head from the books.
Super ripped too.
Super.
And I feel
he
like
is pretty jacked.
in like episode one, I feel like Obi-Wan was kind of the same way too. Like he was like, oh, like I'm super respectful of like all the things that like everyone, like all the masters are doing. But at the same time, he'd be like, I don't know about that, guys. He'd be like, all right, that's how you roll sometimes.
I will say, well, one, Nathan, our buddy Nathan said they didn't say metachlorians because it was a trigger to people who didn't like the prequel movies.
No, I think he's right. I think that they did like intentionally stop talking about that because people got really like annoyed about the midichlorians.
Mhm.
They were like, "Where did this come from? Stupid prequel." So I think he's onto something there.
Oh man, they should just constantly say it every episode now. If you don't like our show, midichlorian. Just keep saying it.
Well, then he would have. People would have hated George Lucas's original play for the sequels, which was supposed to be about metachlorians. Like,
yeah, but it would have
really
Exclusively, like we were just gonna follow a midichlorian.
like a doctor,
maybe
just like a
the
doctor
quantum
who was collecting
realm.
Blood. All right, I want to talk about something that could go into a little bit of a tangent onto shows in general. And we touched on it a little bit. And I have a problem. I'm not going to say some other shows, hopefully, but so we didn't even know who the big bad guy was yet, and we're 4 episodes in. I think this show particularly is one of the other ones who they fall into what I'm calling the streaming show problem. And what that is they have no oversight and they have time to do whatever they want and they draw things out. Personally, I know people disagree with me sometimes. And it's really weird because when we watch movies, I feel the opposite way sometimes. Like, oh, they don't have any time to build these characters. Right?
Mhm.
Like, oh my God, they're automatically best friends in like 2 minutes. That's unrealistic. And then streaming, it's the opposite. They have all this time and they like don't give us any more information. They just like drag it out. And I want to know what maybe you think of that And if you think this show kind of falls into that a little bit, based on what we said, unless Ryan the Lion's right, and that whole flashback with the fire didn't show us everything. I've seen that before. They'll show us from another angle and stuff.
Well,
Hmm.
I pretty much always believe after watching any TV show that it would have been better as a movie, unless it's like a comedy. Like a comedy, like sure, 30 minutes of like nonsense comedy, then on to the next one in a week, no big deal. But whenever it's like a story that I'm like, oh, I would like to know the beginning, the middle, and the end of this story, I don't feel like waiting, several months to get that. I want it at once, and preferably not in like 8 hours, but maybe knock it down to 2.5, like a movie. That's just kind of
But
always
Ryan, but if it's done right though, you can totally enjoy the journey and not care, because like I might get a lot of hate for this, but I really enjoy the Rings of Power. Even House of
I
the
did
Dragon, but
not.
I actually like Rings of
I
Power.
stopped watching it almost immediately.
And the reason I like it is because
okay.
like I enjoyed the story. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna watch this one at a time. It's kind of low risk. There's some things going on. I know it's building to something. I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if this builds to something, that's fine. We're only halfway through. I just feel like you could have told us so much more information in 4 episodes. Sorry, I cut Walter off, but that's.
No, I think you would have been saying the complete opposite if they did it the other way around, where they were dragging it out and giving you all this information. Then you're gonna be like, well, you need to speed it up. I don't need an hour and 20-minute episode to explain something you could have done in 30 minutes, which is kind of what they're trying to do now. I don't know. I like the journey, like 66 said, and I like this because then we get to talk about it, and instead of just binging the whole thing or watching one whole movie, we get time to process and then figure out what's going on versus, oh, okay, done, we're talking about it and how horrible this movie or show was.
I do know that I do like the way Disney Plus does it, and sometimes Amazon. Like, I do like how they're stretching it like every week, because even these people, these haters online, they're coming back to watch it. They're not rating the first episode. They're not like rating the first episode and leaving. Like they're rating it, and then they're coming back to rate the next one and the next one. So like, I'm like I said, I'm not going to say specifics, but there are shows that drop all at the same time that we talked about off air that I'm like, I would have never continued to watch this show.
I don't disagree with you though. I think that some of these, even if we just stick with Star Wars, I think some of these Star Wars live action shows could have just been a movie. Like Obi-Wan probably could have been a movie, and I would have liked that a lot more. So
yeah,
I mean, like, I think the same with I liked Andor, but like he did spend a lot of time captured making like robot parts. I'm like, okay, like that was like the whole middle of the show.
That was the end of the show. What are you talking about?
Oh wait, the whole
Yeah,
yeah, like
that was the end of it.
like it's so for my example is
yeah,
it didn't branch out of there because it felt like he was just making machine parts for like 5
it's true.
episodes.
But in some instances, I like it. Like in Andor, I enjoyed the extended time. But in Obi-Wan, I was like, can we move on at this point? Like, and I love Ewan McGregor. It's so
That's really
weird, but I can't
interesting.
explain
I know.
it.
It just depends on your preference and how they're doing it. Because if someone's doing it bad, you're just like, come on, hurry up, let's go.
It's very interesting. I'd like to know what everyone else thinks. Like, because maybe it is per show. Maybe I'm just overanalyzing. Broadening this idea, but yeah.
But I feel like oftentimes you don't know until the show's over. And then that's why like I get annoyed if I spend months watching something and then in the end I'm like, wow, I did not like that. Whereas if I find that out in 2.5 hours, way more forgiving of it. Like, there's a couple hours, no big deal. Not like I just wasted 2 months waiting to find out that I did not like this.
Yeah, like Rebel Moon as a TV show would have pissed me off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because throughout it was like, I was like, maybe. I guess if the ending is good, and then you get to the ending, it's like, nope, didn't stick the landing. Hated it, all of that now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just a theory that I've been dabbling with for a while. Do we have any questions that we haven't answered yet in these 4 episodes? And we already did our predictions. So I was curious if there's any other questions. Maybe Nathan has a question, but I don't know who the bad guy is. I had my theories. Like I said, I could. Maybe it's the mother. Maybe it's what you guys did. I don't know.
Wouldn't it be cool if Manny Jacinto is a Sith or whatever you want to call a Sith Lord, and then he has those twins turn to the dark side, both of them? That would be cool. I would enjoy that.
That would be
And
awesome. Disney
and they
will
just
never do it.
and they
That'll
just
be
start
awesome.
killing all the Jedi. You're just rest of the series just them wiping out Jedi for fun.
That'd be awesome. Disney will not.
Or
do
he
it.
might kill them all
I
in the
kind of
next
think
episode.
what I like. Yeah,
Wait, what?
I enjoy Nate's prediction. If this guy, what's his name, actor's name?
Manny Jacinto?
Yeah, if he's actually Plagueis, that would be super awesome. I would enjoy that a great deal.
Is Plagueis Darth Sidious's or Palpatine's
Yep.
master? So then
Plagueis
yes.
the
same-
Wise.
Yeah.
I would love if the same
Yeah.
actor played Plagueis the Wise and Jason Mendoza.
I know. Yes, from the.
Portals!
rescue me ever?
I don't know. I mean, you guys might be onto something. I think I kind of like the direction it's going. Are we able to rate this 4 episodes in, or do you want to come back to it at the end? But
I'd like to come back to it. Like I said, I like to see how they finish before judging something.
Do we know how many episodes it is? Is it 8 episodes?
So we're like halfway.
So a halfway rating. Let's do a half rate.
I mean,
All
we're
right,
halfway
rating.
through. We're halfway through. We should kind of have an idea if we enjoy it or not.
I mean, everybody else is doing.
I
Why
mean,
can't we?
I'm
Obviously,
fine with
they're
it,
wrong
but-
though.
Well, my other question is, as you give your ratings, do you think the other? Let's say this ends the way like we all want it to, or whatever, like really well. Let's put it that way. Blanket statement. You're welcome, Nathan. He found out who the actor is from Ryan the Lion's statement. It's like he looked familiar. Do you think the ratings will change? Do you think the ratings will change based on, like I said, if this ends in a pretty good way?
No.
All right.
There's always going to be a hater, and they're always going to find something to complain about.
Once
Especially with
Star Wars fans are unhappy, they are unforgiving.
That is very.
I mean, there's a woman directing it. There's 2 women leads, and the Night Sisters, which were like, a kind of insinuating a gay couple, which it wasn't, but it could have been. I don't know. I'm not here to say anything, but I have a feeling that there's a lot of angry white men out there right now.
You
That are
also
Star Wars
might not
fans.
be wrong. That are also Star Wars fans. Well, just to review, IMDb on average gave us 3.4. That's an average of everybody that rated it over 4 episodes, which is it's crazy that it's that low. The audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is a 14%. That is also low. But the critics, on the other hand, are at 83%. Now, I think these numbers are skewed in some way by.
They
certain
definitely
things.
are.
But that being said, what is your banana rating halfway? I will put an asterisk if this is just halfway. And give us your final thoughts on what maybe will happen, like at the end of the series. We'll start with 66. Although you might be the lowest rating, which is going to surprise me. But go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look it up, but I don't know who did the music for this. It might be, and I feel terrible saying this, it might be my least favorite composer of all Star Wars media.
Ooh.
I mean, comparing it to John Williams, but go ahead.
Well,
Well,
no, because there's
Obviously,
also
John Williams.
there have been a couple, like the person that did I think it was like a Danish or a German person that did the Mandalorian. The Book of Boba Fett, Rogue One, like there's a lot of people that there's like 3 or 4 different composers now music wise. This might be my least favorite one. It kind of takes me out sometimes. I think that's what makes me think it feels cheesy. I don't know. I really liked episode 1. I also liked episode 2. episode 3 took me out, and I kind of figured out where everything was going in episode 4, so I was a little, almost kind of disappointed. I'm giving this a 7 overall, 7 bananas.
That's still pretty high.
I
Super
know.
high.
You know what? Can I tell you? I came in saying 6, and then the more that we talked about this, and as Walter said, it gave us such fun. Like, we focused on the fun parts and discussed so much. I enjoyed this more just because we got to talk about it.
Cool. All
Man.
right. All right.
You're welcome, Star Wars. We helped you out.
Let's go with Ryan the Lion. Oh man, I looked up the composer we thought, but go ahead. I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's all right. I really want to see where it's gonna go. I think it would be cool if Manny Jacinto turns out to be Darth Plagueis. I think that would be awesome. We talked about. I think it would be interesting if there's like a twist in the backstory somehow that we haven't learned yet. I hope there is. Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm not. I think it's just it's got room to improve, but where I'm at right now, I'm probably gonna go with like. I'm gonna go with a 5.5.
All right, 5.5. Walter.
The ratings got messed up because 66, because I thought he would have been the lowest, and then the 5.5 would have been in the middle, but it's switched. So I have to go higher than 7. I'm giving it a 7.5. I was at a 7, but since 66 was more critical, there's no reason for me to be lower than him. So, or equal to.
I thought he was going to be like around where I was, and I was like, oh man, he went way high.
Well, he did come in lower, but I do like how our ratings change as we talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm
not done.
I mean, I'm at a 6.5 because I agree. There's enough that I liked to like keep me coming back for more, which is good, and I'm hoping that it ends well. I am not judging it too soon, so. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I'll finish your statement.
I was gonna say I'm not judging it too soon. I'm giving it some time, so I've seen way worse series, so this is.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and this one's got, like I said, like even the kid actors, like it's fine. Like I don't understand where all the hate is coming from, to be honest. So.
I had a question for 66. Does Darth Plagueis, is he the one who starts to rule the 2?
No, that's Darth Bane.
Oh.
And this is that, and that's like 5,000 years before A New Hope.
Well, because I really want
or something like that.
Twin Siths, and I was like, there's a new take on the rule of 2. No. All right.
Interesting. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm interested, and we'll have to check up in a couple weeks when the whole series is out. But I'm gonna stick with it. I hope everyone else sticks with it. Our ratings are way.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely sticking with it.
I still can't believe the ratings that are out there.
Yeah, that's too harsh.
I think I would be a terrible Star Wars fan if I didn't point out like 2 things. One, it's actually confirmed that in episode 4 here, when they go to search that, or maybe it's when they're standing around talking and discussing, not when they go to search. They're in the war room talking. That is Ki-Adi-Mundi, a young version of him. So interesting, because everything I've said about the Jedi Council not knowing about the Sith, maybe he's just a terrible person and doesn't tell the Jedi Council, like, oh, the Sith have been extinct for thousands of years, and Ki-Adi-Mundi's like, oh, I kind of knew about this, but didn't tell you.
Great point.
Shoot! What about the Wookiees on Kashyyyk? So yeah, so that's kind of interesting. There's also like a kind of like weird so the Jedis that go to hunt for May, looking for Kalnaka, one of them in the background, it looks like Plo Koon, who is like Dave Filoni's baby, like kind of besides Ahsoka, one of his favorite characters he created. So that could be really cool. In Kalnaka's hut, the Wookiee, you see like a bowcaster under the table, which is kind of neat, but also kind of like weird. Like, do all Wookiees just have bowcasters? I don't know. We saw a light whip, like a lightsaber whip, which was actually revealed in the High Republic comics, and the green woman from the Coruscant, Vernesta Rowe, she's the one that kind of debuts it in the comic in the High Republic books. She kind of is like in the woods, and she turns her lightsaber into a lightsaber whip, and it's pretty neat. So it was cool to see that in live action. And the last thing, which I think you guys would enjoy, was when the ship crashes and Osha is on that ship that crashes, and like there's stuff spewed about in the snow. I think it's snow. There's like this there's this big metal pole sticking out, and it is identical to the pole that Harrison Ford uses in the trash compactor to try to stop the walls from closing in. So yeah.
I love the fun Star Wars facts. But while we're finishing up, if anyone else wants to leave in the comments section what their rating is, let us know. I know it's hard to rate a series so early, but we can try. Are there any other? I don't know. So that's fun because I was gonna say that there weren't many like Easter eggs or like fan service because it doesn't happen during the time that we already know. But 66 kind of proved me wrong there with potentially a ton of nods to everything else.
Soul also says no one could survive that fall, and well, Palpatine did, and Darth Maul did, and Luke Skywalker did.
It's very true. It's very true. So listen, I want to know if anyone out there is listening. If you're one of the haters, tell us exactly why. If it can't just be because it's not canon, I guess. Tell us why you didn't like this. But you should like and subscribe and share this with everyone because we're gonna come back on this when the show's over, and I'd love to hear what everyone else thinks. But I don't know. Now I'm gonna go into these new episodes with what you guys said, and I'm gonna see. And if it doesn't happen, I'm gonna be mad.
Yeah, now you're going in with expectations of like, oh man, I hope all this stuff we talked about happens. Oh, it didn't. Now I hate it.
So hopefully that doesn't happen. And next week we're back to movies. We're gonna review and talk about Trigger Warning.
Oh,
Jessica Alba, Trigger Warning, right?
I won't be here for that.
Oh,
come on.
I'll still watch it though. No, I'll still watch it.
All right, you'll have to write in our review. So stay tuned, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Quack you next time.
Oh boy.
There you go.